in a couple of minutes, as I mentioned, I have, Thulani Makhoba, who is from Loving Classroom South Africa. This is an organization that is set to basically bring a different tone to our classrooms. As we all know, we are facing something that is not it's not great. It's not nice to look at. And I understand that, kids, teenagers, and the like all have their challenges. They're going through personality changes. They're going through character change. They're going through everything that you can think of. They're going through understanding their bodies, understanding themselves. They're going through all sorts of challenges. But all the things that we are seeing in our classrooms, all the footage that we are seeing, all these disheartening and scary things that we are seeing in our schools are actually have a cause, and we actually need to understand, because teachers will blame parents blame teachers, parents blame society, blames government, but where is the solution? As I mentioned from last week, I said we also need to start bringing things to the table. We also need to start discussing things that actually are solution driven, because it's all well and good to say this party is not doing their job, that party is not doing their work, this person is not doing great, these guys are not upholding the law, etc., etc. But what are the solutions that we can actually talk about? What are the solutions that we are highlighting? And platforms like, stations, online radio stations, etc., are responsible to actually spread the word of something positive and something progressive. So if you're tuned in, and if you know someone who is in the educational sector, you know someone who is in the Department of Education, if you know someone who just has an interest in children and teaching children, this is the show for them to tune in, listen in as we speak to Thulani, who is going to be telling us about the wonderful program and the strategies in Loving Classroom South Africa. He's going to be joining us after the music. Please do send us your comments, send us your questions. Also, if you'd like to send us anything anonymously, you can do so by sending it to 079-497-2158. 079-497-2158. We'd love to hear from you. We want to hear your thoughts, because one thing I know for a fact, everybody is somehow concerned about the state of our schools, is somehow concerned about how the children carry themselves in schools, is somehow concerned. Everyone is concerned about the relationship between teachers and children, or teachers and students. There's a lot of tension, there's a lot of disconnect, there's a lot of disrespect that's going on there. So we need to understand what is the cause of all of that. We also need to understand, how do we curb that? How do we eliminate, or how do we resolve these things? Because they need to be resolved. We cannot go anywhere as a nation without youth that are not educated, without youth that do not know how to listen to authority, without youth that don't know how to actually take rules. We are facing a huge problem, and if we don't take time to analyze and introspect what is happening and find solutions, we are going to find ourselves in trouble. Because if youth are not groomed to be able to be organized, to be able to have a teachable spirit, to have all sorts of things that are needed to take you onto your adult life, that means that our country will definitely be in shambles. It means that we'll actually, I don't even have the words, I could be speaking just from my 2 cents point of view, but fact is, we all know that where we are headed right now, something needs to change. So that's why I'm really excited, and I'm really, really keen on having this conversation.
Because they don't have anyone that they can speak to, that can try to sit down with them and understand their pain. They see that the only way for them to be heard or to be listened to is to display this behavior that they are displaying, which is sometimes violent, sometimes it's not right, and all of those things.
It makes perfect sense. Yes. It makes perfect sense.
And one of the other things that we are struggling with within our schools, teachers are so overwhelmed with the curriculum that they have to teach math, they have to teach science, and so forth and so forth. But our kids are not teach basic virtues, basic values of life, and that's where we come in. Our program is built on a foundation of 8 virtues, which is respect, compassion, listening, kindness, gratitude, love, friendship, and care. And these virtues actually they speak to each other, and they spill off from one virtue to the next.
To another, yes.
And we feel and we strongly believe, and evidence has shown, that once kids go through all these virtues, they are able to build genuine relationships within themselves in the classroom, and they are able to build genuine relationships between themselves and the teachers as well. These relationships and these friendships that they are building, it's such a way that even if we do not agree with each other,
yes,
we can sit down and talk about it.
And have respect for each other.
And have respect for each other. And have a conversation that is very respectful, that is very loving, but we still do not agree.
Yes.
You have your point of view, I have my point of view. So I think with us and with the program, when kids have gone through all these 8 virtues that I've just mentioned, this is one of the things that we want to achieve, to say, whether you are black, white, whether you are Xhosa, Zulu, whether you are from rich family or poor family, whether you are from a squatter camp and a formal settlement, you can still sit down and have a genuine conversation so that you can understand each other in a loving way, so that I understand where you come from and you understand where I come from.
That is so incredible. Having Thulani rather give us the lowdown, the principles and the values of Loving Classroom South Africa. And I just would like you to repeat those values, please, for us, Thulani, so that, anyone who's just joined us, they know the fundamentals and, the base of Loving South Africa.
Yes. Now, the virtues that we teach, it's respect, compassion,
yes,
listening, kindness, gratitude, love, friendship, and care. So how it works is each virtue becomes a lesson in class. And each virtue has got many different activities that kids do. And we use a methodology which we call it a 4H methodology.
Okay.
Which is humanity being, head, heart, and hand.
Wow.
Humanity being, it's we teach kids to understand what humanity being is and how humanity being works well together. Just like our human body.
Yes, yes.
Hands, eyes, nose, brain, and so forth. So if one part of your body is not working, it's not only that part that is affected. It becomes the part, your whole body becomes affected. So same thing with humanity being. If one part of humanity being is affected, if Mina, I'm at a point of privilege and when you are not and you are affected, it does not only affect you because we are all connected. We are all part of the human body.
True.
One way or the other along the way, it's gonna come back to affect me. As well. So we teach them that. And then the head, it's learning and reading and understanding the teachings that we are giving you. Heart has to do with feelings.
Yes.
After you've learned whatever that I've taught you about humanity being and all that,
yes,
how do you feel about that? Is the feeling positive or is the feeling negative?
It's definitely positive. It's definitely positive, yes.
And then hand is taking everything that you have learned and you actually put it into practice. Because it's all good and well to learn about love, to learn about humanity being and so forth. But if you are not doing anything about it, then Fana Noguti, you have not.
Nothing has been done.
So that is the methodology that we use in our primary program of Loving Classroom. I have to say, Loving Classroom, actually, I am the founder of Loving Classroom
South Africa.
But it did not start here in South Africa.
Okay.
Loving Classroom is an international organization.
Yes.
So Loving Classroom was started many years ago, I think around 1995.
Yes.
By a man and his wife. His name is David Gaffen and Naomi. So they, what is happening in the Middle East between Palestine and Israel.
All the commotion, true, yes.
So they saw what is happening and they were not happy. So David used to be called to mediate between two different groups, and he would go mediate in this group, in this area, between the two groups, and there would be peace. But after he leaves, another fire starts there.
Yes.
He would go there, mediate, there would be peace. After he leaves, another fire. And there were so many fires that he said, this is not sustainable. I can't keep on or all over. I need to come up with something that is very sustainable. And what is one place where everyone goes before Baba Batala?
It's the classroom.
Exactly.
Yes, wow.
So that's how he started it, to say we really need to teach people from a very young age
true.
and at Lasini, so that even when they grow up, and like I said earlier on, they don't agree religiously, they don't agree politically, they don't agree in any other way, they can still sit down and have a conversation
and have respect for each
other. And have a conversation about it. So
that is so incredible, and that is actually so true, because, you know, listening to you speak about the background and the history of Loving Classroom, it really hits a chord, because there is a saying that I came across a couple of months ago that said that everything that is wrong with everyone in the world stems from childhood. So to then start this sort of engagement in young minds is literally eliminating, you know, children, or it is eliminating adults that will just thrive in conflict rather than adults that are able to resolve. I'm actually very happy to see that from Loving Classroom South Africa, there's also a young person. We have Naledi here also from Loving Classroom South Africa. And Naledi, I know that you're obviously very much hands-on and involved in the organization in rolling out the program in the different environments and different classrooms. Can you please just tell us about yourself and your work that you are doing in Loving Classroom South Africa?
Okay, so I am the administrator at Loving Classroom, but I started out as a facilitator.
Okay.
So I was on the ground, I was in the classrooms, I still am sometimes, and that's how it began for me. Yeah.
And what have you found, let me actually rather ask you like this. Where do you think, or how would you say the value, what would you say the value of Loving Classroom South Africa is from your experience with working with the organization?
I mean, we work with schools in the townships, and that's where there's so many problems, because there's a lot of violence, there's just a lot of discord with everything that is happening. So with Loving Classroom, I've found that it's harder to talk coming from a teacher's perspective. When you come and talk as a friend, it's easier to listen. So we are not there to teach, but we're there to have conversations. And the value that we bring is basically love. And all the virtues that we have encompass love as a whole. So I think that's where we are as Loving Classroom.
And in terms of the age groups, what age groups are we talking about here? Are we talking from just the small kiddies, let's say you're 4 to 5 years old? What age are kids in school these days?
So
5 to 6?
We start with primary schools, it's grade 4 to grade 6.
Okay.
And then we then go on to high school, which we consider grade 7s as high school, so 7 to 10.
Yes.
And that's the basic age group that we work with. We recently started with the primary schools, and the response has been amazing.
Yes.
It is a lot more effective when you start young, because that's where you are able to instill those values for them to grow up with them. You don't forget anything that you learn in primary school. Those are life lessons that you stick with, and they're there with you forever. You might not use them, but they're there.
They're there.
So it's just been amazing working with the primary schools. The high schools as well that we have worked with, they have been showing tremendous effort in changing the cultures that are brought into schools by children from different areas. For instance, in Zola, there's a school we work with there, and there are certain the area itself is not the greatest, it's not the safest.
Yes.
But we have had responses from children saying we are able to have conversations back at home with our parents and with our siblings as to how do we treat each other, how do we speak to each other, and how do we disagree respectfully. And those are the small things that we think It takes one person,
Correct.
basically.
Correct. And for each program, so let's just say there is the Noluthando school. This is a dream of mine one day. There's the Noluthando school. I'm like, okay, you know what? Loving Classroom South Africa, I need your expertise in our schools. Let's start with one classroom. How long is the program or how long is the program for, let's say, just one class?
Okay, so for a class, the program is 8 months long.
Okay.
So we do one virtue per month.
Yes.
So we choose according to the virtues as they go. And if, for instance, the first virtue is respect, for that month, we practice and we eat, live, and breathe respect.
Wow, yes.
So every month is a different virtue. And by the end of the year, we've done all these virtues and we are able to then encompass all of them together when we do the last virtue, which is care.
Yes.
And that's when we start putting things into action. So each virtue is according to the 4H methodology, the humanity being head, heart, and hand.
Yes.
So friendship and care being the last ones are the hand. That's when we put things into action. That's when we build our communities. It can be your community at home. It can be your community as a class.
Yes.
It can be the community as for the school at large. So that's how it works.
Yes, Thulani.
Can I just add something?
Absolutely, yes.
Actually, we do not do the actual teaching. class.
Yes.
We train teachers
Wow.
to do that. Because these teachers are the ones that stay with these kids
Every day.
Every day.
Correct.
And remember, we are not only improving the relationship on the kids' side.
Yes.
We're also improving it on the
Teacher's side.
So it's important for them also to know and understand the program. So initially we will have, so it's an 8-month long program, but it becomes 9 months because the first month we concentrate on teachers where we give them teacher training
Yes.
on how to roll out the program.
Yes.
And then every month we will meet with those teachers and do follow-up training and prepare them for the next virtue that they are going to
Roll
teach.
out.
I want to go back a little bit when you started. You said we have a young
Yeah.
young person here. Actually, that is one of our principles, and that is one of our actually method that we use is that we've got 11 staff members
Nice.
that we hired, and they are all young people.
Wonderful.
I'm the only one who is
The senior. Who said the senior?
Yeah, but when I started as well, I was
You were
I
young.
was a young person when I started. There was 2 of us then, but we have and the program itself has a potential of actually assisting with the problems that we have of youth unemployment in the country.
Yes.
As evidence, we have 11 people that we hired who've got families that are able to go back to their families and at least do something within their families. Lastly, what I wanted to say is our program, we've got 3 different programs. So we
Yes.
have a primary school version,
Yes.
which Naledi mentioned, which is grade 4 to grade 6.
Okay.
So grade 7 is not primary school.
Yes, yes.
It is situated in
primary, but
school,
it's actually
it's senior phase.
true.
It's high school.
Yes.
So we have a high school version,
Yes.
and we have a book. So this is the book that we use for primary school.
Wow, okay.
And then
Beautiful.
the high school version, and
we have
Naledi will
it,
come
yeah.
with it.
Okay.
And then we have a second year program.
Okay.
This is the second year. We call it Loving Truth. So after these kids have learned all these virtues
Yes.
that they have learned, for the second year, we then start having topics and we start having conversations
Beautiful.
of things that are happening on a day-to-day basis.
Yes.
And these topics that we have, we don't come with them. The kids choose them themselves. We just guide and we bring in experts that are for and against whatever topic. So for an example, we'll talk about GBV, which is a very serious problem and a very serious challenge
Definitely.
within our communities.
Yes.
So we will bring in experts who will come, and kids will have debates and will have a conversation about. But our debates now because they went all through all the 8 virtues.
Yes.
Our debates are not just debates that I want you to hear me.
Yes.
I'm telling you, it's like a debate. These kids, they understand what humanity being is. They understand if I hate you, I'm hating myself.
Yes.
And these are debates are kids who went through all the 8 virtues, and they are debates more especially that are with love.
Wow.
So, yeah.
This is beautiful. This is so beautiful, and I'm so glad that we are having this conversation. What I liked about what you mentioned, Thulani, is the fact that you engage the teachers first, which is also something very important, because before you obviously came into the studio, I said that we need to also understand, where the disconnect is, because it's not that the kids are the only ones that are at fault. We also do have teachers that are toxic. We also do have teachers that break down kids. I remember growing up, my mom used to tell me about a teacher that really broke her esteem, where she would say, because my mom had brown eyes, she would say to her, wena smang mang kamehlo ankare adinja, saying that to a child who is about 9-10 years old, because they've got brown eyes. And then instead of actually, whenever they are wrong, instead of reprimanding them with love or reprimanding them constructively, you then say something like, you've got eyes that look like a dog. So it's very important to actually engage teachers as well and make them aware that sometimes their approach is also, destructive for the kids. So I do have a comment here from one of our anonymous. Oh no, she's not anonymous. She did say, Tshegofatso Musadi, it says that what a great interview, Noluthando. Thank you so much for the educational stuff. And Thulani Makhoba, we truly appreciate what you're doing for our kids. May this program spread across South Africa in all different provinces. Can't wait for the program to start in Carltonville. Lots of love. Do you find that there is obviously, Naledi, a need, especially with your program, with what Loving South Africa is doing? Are people, giving that, indicating that there is a demand? Are people calling you out saying, come please? Because I'm sure, everyone is desperate. Even though your children directly, your own children, are not the ones fighting in school. They're not the ones pouring water on teachers. They're not the one hitting teachers. But at the end of the day, because you've got kids, you think at the end of the day, this way, somewhere, somehow affects me indirectly as a South African, because this is the youth of my country. If a child is able to hit a teacher or pour water on a principal, what are they going to do to their boss in future? So do you see that? Do you see parents or people coming through just, requesting for the program?
Yes, absolutely. So in the past few months, we've had an influx of schools coming in and saying, we see what you're doing.
Yes.
We've heard about you, and we'd like to engage and see if you can have us at the schools, because word of mouth spreads very quickly. So with that, we're seeing quite a bit more schools approaching us and looking to work with us. We'd love to reach every school in South Africa, but because there's only a small group of us, we can only do so much. But we're hoping that in the near future we're able to go to as many schools as we possibly can to make South Africa a loving
place.
world.
Yes, definitely. We also have a question from, Thulani, please go on.
Yeah, I wanted to add, currently we are working in Gauteng.
Yes.
And remember, we are an NGO.
Okay.
We are in NPO. Mm-hmm. The schools are not paying anything for the work that we are doing. We are actually getting funding from a lot of very good people, both locally and internationally.
Yes.
But our goal is for the Department of Education to actually take over the program and make it part of the curriculum. In that way, it will be very easy and simple for us to reach all the schools, because it will be part of the curriculum, and kids will be actually reading about it, studying about it, and it all the things that we are doing will be part of what the Department of Education is, more especially when it comes to life skills and life orientation in school. That's what we ultimately want to achieve.
The ultimate goal.
Yes, that's the ultimate goal. Luckily, Gauteng Department of Education gave us an opportunity to pilot the program here.
Yes.
With the hope we must start after we are done with the pilot, then they will review and see which this works, because there is evidence that this work, and they will then take it over and roll it out in all Gauteng schools. Currently, there is around more than just shy of 3,000 schools, high schools,
yes,
in Gauteng, and we can't reach all of those schools with the limited resources that we have, because we are being funded by individual, and I have to say mostly international individuals that are finding us. There is a wonderful lady that I'm sorry I have to mention.
Absolutely, yes.
Her name is Nikki, Nikki Menash.
Okay.
It's not Nicki Minaj.
Not I was like, I nearly, wait, I was just nearly, which Nikki are we talking about?
Yeah, no.
Okay.
Her name is Nikki Minaj.
What a coincidence.
Yeah, she is a South African who now lives in London.
Yes.
She has connected us to a network of wonderful people who have supported us. The founders as well, David and Naomi Geffen.
Yes.
More especially from the initial stage, they were supporting us from their own pockets.
Wow.
To say, we want to see this, we want to see this prosper, we want to see love spread, because their ultimate goal is to build a loving world.
Yes.
So they were supporting us up until we met up with different people. And Minacha, I won't mention everyone that has Nikki has connected us to, but all of them, they know themselves, they are wonderful, and they've assisted us to be where we are at currently. At this point.
That is so incredible. I'm very inspired by the work that you do. And Thulani, I just want to understand, if I can just, go understand your personality, or what made you do this work, because you could have done anything, and it's usually very rare. I'm not trying to sideline, or I'm not trying to, put our male counterparts on the spot, but most of the time men are usually interested in other types of businesses, transport, mining, but not working with children. What inspired you to do this type of work? Because I can only imagine someone who is passionate about helping children have a better outlook in life is someone who, has obviously a soft spot, because kids can be a handful. I've got two. Just this morning we were fighting and I'm like, okay, keep your cool. You're talking about kids today, so practice what you preach. So where did this love for kids and wanting them to do well emotionally and otherwise come from?
My mom.
Wow, yes.
May her soul rest in peace. My mom was an activist.
Yes.
My mom was someone who I remember when they were having arguments with my father would say, flag classes South Africa, because people are coming in and out wanting help and whatnot.
Yes.
So my mom was that type of a person who would help everyone.
Wow.
And my mom many years ago introduced me to an organization called HIV SA. I went there to do a course, and fortunately at HIFSA they had camps.
Okay.
And they requested us to come and become camp counselor.
Yes.
After that first camp, I was transformed.
Wow.
Seeing the kids there and the love that the kids gave.
Yes.
Because the camp was 10 days. Kids would come in and they would take kids from, like, kids who are very troublesome.
Wow.
They would come in, and when they left those kids, you saw a change, and you saw that these people are going to be something else when
they grow up. Yes.
And actually a lot of them are now very responsible, and a lady's best friend was my camper.
Wow.
Her name is Pilile. She's now a teacher in KZN. And like I said, that for me did it for me. And the love that I have for children, I love children so much that I don't want to see any harm being done to
the kids.
So I think that's where it all comes from.
So it clearly really left an impact on you, that you decided to carry forth your mother's legacy and make sure that you also implant all the things that you learned in the the kids that you're teaching now. I've got a couple of comments. I'll start with Newa Hassan. Newa, thank you so much for being part of the show. Newa is asking a question. What do we need to have healthy debates? And I think this is really a very important question because it's something that we struggle with even as adults, where we fight in a very nasty way instead of having a healthy debate. So what do we need to actually have a debate that is healthy, that is also full of love? Now, lady, I'd like you to give us your insight on this one.
Okay, so a healthy debate to me, personally, I think is when you are able to disagree with someone without putting them down, without disrespecting them or their opinion. It's being able to get your point across without hurting the other person's feelings or without just hurting other people as you do it. It's about doing it with loving ears.
Yes.
Doing it with an open mind, doing it so that when you are, put yourself in the other person's shoes, basically.
Correct.
If you were to hear these words, how would they sound to you? It's about thinking and feeling about what you're about to say and do. So that, for me, is how you can do it. I mean, we all get riled up and we all get angry. It's okay to feel those things. Just be aware that you're not the only one feeling all of that. There is a human being inside of everyone, and if you want to be heard, then you must be willing to listen to the other person as well. So that's how I give it out, and that's how I take it as well.
It's actually true. At the end of the day, it's all about compassion. It's all about feeling for the next person that, what, even though we are fighting, but at the same time, this is still a human being. This is still someone, with the soul, And before we take it to the music, and I will obviously, be wrapping up the questions because I know you've got a lot of work to do and you are busy and you are in demand. We will take it to the music, but I will be asking a couple of more questions when we come back. Please, if you've got any questions as a parent, as a teacher, as an adult, or even as a child, although you should be at school today, right now, do send them through on our Instagram live. You can also send through your questions, your comments on 079-497-2158, 079-497-2158. Thank you, Tshegofatso, for sending that comment through our WhatsApp. We'll just take it to the music now, and if you have any questions prepared, please do send them. We have Naledi, we have Thulani here from Loving Classroom South Africa, something that I believe should be nationwide, something that I believe every school should have the privilege and the blessing of having, because at the end of the day, academics are academics. To have children do well in maths, to have children do well in English is all great, but what we also need to do is to groom our kids to be actually emotionally intelligent, to groom our teachers to also be emotionally intelligent, because it's not always that it's actually the kids that are at fault. It's not always that the kids are the ones that actually have a negative attitude. We do have teachers that bring down kids. We do have teachers that have told children that you'll never amount to anything, that have told students that you've got smelly hair, that have just done things in the most cruel way, forgetting that they're dealing with fragile esteems, they're dealing with fragile hearts, they're dealing with fragile minds. So we need an all-round solution, and I believe that the people that I'm sitting with today, the people that from Loving Classroom South Africa, really do have something that can be a solution, because if we continue like this as South Africa, if our classrooms continue being the way we are really going to lose our country. And by losing our country, I mean that we are going to have adults that don't know how to resolve conflict, adults that are actually going to kill each other when it's time to talk, adults that are actually going to just cause chaos when it's time to solve a problem. We need to get down to this situation. We need to have these debates. We need our government to actually be more active and be involved in getting these programs in schools every single day, 365. Being learned and doing and achieving great marks in maths is great, but you also need to know, how do I regulate my feelings? How do I control my anger when I feel angry? I don't just have to hit anyone. How do I actually tell or communicate with the teacher when I come from home and maybe my mom or my dad or my uncle has treated me in a way that is actually killing me inside? Because all these things are connected. The homes are connected to how the kids behave in classes. The teachers are also, their behavior also stems from maybe what they are going through in their own homes. Everything is interconnected. But with organizations like Loving Classroom South Africa, we can get to a point where we are able to amicably and discuss our problems with love. In terms of your success cases, or in terms of, let me just say, your testimonies, is there something that comes to mind that you can think of that you can share with us to say, there was a particular child or there was a particular group of children, and because of Loving Classroom South Africa, these are the changes that we saw. And I'd like us to mention them because from time to time, as I said, the focus is academics. We all want kids to do well in maths and science and biology and so forth, but we also forget the soft skills. We also forget the things that make them human, the things that they need to actually live in society with others. Please share anything that you can deem or you deem as a success story.
We have a lot of those, but what comes to mind now vividly, I won't mention the actual names,
of course, yes,
of the kids because of obvious reasons.
Yes.
I would call this child Naledi.
Yes.
There is this child who is Naledi. He was a very respectful child at school, but all of a sudden his behavior started changing.
Yes.
And he became violent. He became a bully. He became, all of these things that uncontrollable. And he was a straight A student before, and he started, like, his grades started dropping and whatnot and all of those things. And the school wanted to call him in for disciplinary, and they were so close to expel him.
Yes.
But one of the teachers who teaches, who was trained on Loving Classroom and teaches the Loving Classroom program,
yes,
at school, actually was part of the disciplinary hearing and remembered what I said earlier to say painful behavior comes from people in pain.
True.
And wanted to find out what actually is the pain of this child. And it was very heartbreaking, only to find that this child stays in some informal settlement.
Yes.
In Lenasia. The child actually stays with the mother. And the only family that this boy knew was his mother, no one else. The mother passed away at home. The child for 4 weeks, 4 weeks coming to school, going back home to his dead mother.
Oh my goodness.
Because he doesn't know who to contact, where to go.
Or what's even happening here.
He knows that my mom is, because he's intelligent. He knows that my mom is not breathing. Probably my mom is no more. You understand? He would go to school, come back every day. So when the teacher found that out, then the teacher contacted us. We came in, we brought in the psychologist who then counseled the child, arranged for the funeral of the mother, and made sure that because there was no one else, it was just this boy, and made sure that the mother is buried. And then afterwards we arranged a family within the community that it's going to take this child and adopt the child. The child now finished matric. The lady that I spoke about earlier on, Nikki Minaj, actually said, I'm going to adopt this child, not take him and stay with me, but I'm going to adopt him and I'm going to pay for all his university fees and anything that he might need so that he becomes a better person in the future and all that. So here the lesson is, if the school was so quick to say, your behavior, because of your behavior, we're expelling you, you are out of here, and not find out what makes this behavior, this child would have been lost in the system forever. And this child, who knows where would this child be probably. And
that is so heartbreaking, and that is a very painful story that a child would have to go through that. A child would have to go through leaving for school and coming back to actually, their mother's corpse. That is, oh my goodness.
So there was a story like that, and there's another story that we had of there's an exercise that we do.
Yes.
In class, which talks about we call it a 1 billion toast to thank a lot of people that made things possible, like this microphone, for an example.
Yes.
Anyone who was involved in bringing this microphone, a lot of people will think about, hey, the person who bought this, or the engineer who engineered. There is a lot of people. The truck driver who drove the truck that brought the microphone here. The people who sweeps the roads, the construction workers who made it. You know, it's a
whole
lot.
system.
It's a whole system, and we only thank the people that we think are important.
Yes,
and
the front line people, and we forget about everyone
else.
Yes.
So we make them understand the importance, and that's where humanity being comes in, the importance of everyone that is important in this. Because once this chain is broken, this microphone wouldn't be here.
True.
At the end of the day. So
True.
the class, in one class, the teacher did that exercise with the class. There was a child. Then the child took the exercise back home, and the father was abusive at home to the child. But the father, after doing the exercise with the child, the father understood to say, yeah, man, you know, some of these things I'm thinking maybe, I'm fucking child.
Yes,
but
yes.
sometimes I'm not.
It's
like
destructive.
I'm being destructive, and you know, all of those things. So there are many different stories that we can.
Do you envision the program extending even to the parents, whereby we actually have, you know, parents and teachers and children maybe having, you know, some form of exercise or activities amongst themselves, so that, you know, like I said, this disconnection actually just kind of lessens? Because when you look at social media conversations, teachers are blaming parents, parents are blaming teachers, then it's the government, and then no one actually ever says, you know what, this is where it all ends, this is the solution. And when you mention that here is a father, because of Loving Classroom South Africa, because of what is being taught to the kids, here is a father who then had a light bulb moment to say, you know, I'm thinking I'm being strict, I'm creating boundaries, or I'm being a good parent, but in actual fact I'm causing harm. And so many parents, myself included, so many parents, we think at times we are doing the right thing, we are being strict, we are making sure kids do the right thing, yet there's a fine line as well. There's a thin line between being strict in a good way and also being toxic.
Yeah. So the 8 virtues and the program that I mentioned,
yes,
it's our primary program.
Yes.
It's what we want to achieve. But out of the primary program, we felt there must be a secondary program.
Yes.
Because when kids do these activities with a class, they start opening up.
Yes.
And they start talking about serious challenges that they are faced with back at home, and sometimes within their communities. So our secondary program we have brought in based on the needs. So we'll identify different kids, and based on the needs, we will then bring in different interventions within those kids or within those particular communities. And Naledi mentioned earlier on to say the last 2 virtues, which is friendship and care. It's where they fall under hand. It's where we take everything that we have learned and we put it into practice. Now, the kids, they have projects and programs that they develop and they do within their communities. And that's how we rope in communities. And that's how we try to involve communities. But the training that we do also for teachers, it's not just for teachers. We also train SGP members as well.
Yes.
Because most of them, they represent the parent wing of the school.
Yes.
And we encourage them to say, take these trainings and do it with the rest of the parents within the school. And then lastly, my lady said earlier on, it's 1 virtue a month.
Yes.
So we will do the virtue in the classroom. It's 2 times a month.
Yes.
But the rest of the month, all those activities, we say to the kids, go and do them at home.
At home, yes.
With your family. Whatever that we have done here, whatever that we have taught you here, go back to your family. And there are well, it's not homeworks, but there are things that we say for the rest of the month, this is what you need to do. So if we are doing respect, for an example, respect does not end in a lesson of loving classroom. When they go to math, they must show what they have learned during respect.
True.
During break, they must show what they have learned during respect. You know, because we have exercise and activities to say, most of our schools have got feeding scheme. To say after you eat at feeding scheme, to show that you understand humanity being and you have gratitude. Don't take your plate dirty there. You wash the plate, and you are showing gratitude towards Mama Loase kitchen that has cooked the food. So all those things are part of how we will try to incorporate the community and the parents. And all that.
I'm really loving this program. I'm really loving Classroom South Africa. Now, in terms of connecting with the organization, in terms of someone saying, you know what, I really, really need you guys to be part of my classroom or my school. How do they do that? How is the process? Can you take us through the process, Naledi, of, a school being interested? As you mentioned earlier, you said that there is definitely a huge demand for what you guys do. How would one go about making sure, or how would one go about getting in contact with you so you can come and roll out the Loving Classroom South Africa program?
So far we've been connected through other schools, and that's how we've been reaching out. But right now you can either email admin@lovingclassroom.co.za or info@lovingclassroom.co.za, or call numbers. Thulani will give you the two numbers.
That's fine.
And that's how you can get in touch with us.
Okay, that's great stuff. So if you can just please repeat that email address again.
info@lovingclassroom.co.za or admin@lovingclassroom.co.za.
Wonderful stuff. I know that apart from obviously wanting to work closely with the government and obviously having a lot more funders and donors to make sure that the organization grows and it spreads wide, what other vision do you have for Loving Classroom South Africa, Thulani, as the founder, as the person who actually is driving the ship, making sure that, you spread the work, you spread the word, you also spread the love? What is the big vision ultimately?
Ultimately, the first vision is to have Loving Classroom in each and every school in South Africa, not just in Gauteng.
Yes.
Being incorporated into the virtues that we are teaching, being incorporated into the curriculum of the school in South Africa, more especially life orientation, because if you look there, it's empty. There's nothing there. So being incorporated there. But over and above that, because remember, we start in the classroom, but over and above that, we want to build a loving world.
True.
We want to build loving schools where there is minimum to zero violence in schools, but not just in schools, within communities. And ultimately, we want to build a loving South Africa, where people in South Africa can have genuine respecting relationships amongst themselves.
Amongst each other.
You understand? Obviously, it's not a perfect world, and it will, well, we hope it will, but it will never be a perfect world.
Nothing is ever perfect, true.
People will always disagree, but we want people to disagree respectfully.
In a loving manner.
In a loving manner, to disagree in a manner where there is no hate, there is no violence, they can easily sit down and persuade each other on their views and disagree and agree in a loving way. One of the things I have to mention, sorry.
Yes, please, absolutely.
One of the things that we have is we partner with a lot of organizations or other organizations that are doing things that we are not doing.
Yes.
Currently, we have partnered with the Marshall Scholarship Foundation, and we identify kids within our school who are doing matric, and we take them to the Marshall Scholarship Foundation, where if they are taken there, their universities basically covered.
Wow.
Marshall pays for everything.
Wow.
Their registration, their books, their tuition, accommodation, buys them a laptop, give them a stipend, and so forth.
It goes beyond teaching.
Just,
it's now literally setting them up for their adult life.
That's what building a loving world is. And we always say, the kids that we've taken to the Marshall Scholarship, they were asking, hey, what do I do now once I graduate and I work? Do I pay you back? We say, no, you don't pay us back. Go back to the school that you went to, whether it's Mube, whether it's Zola, Dr. Vilagazi, or whatever school that we identify you at, and identify another child who might need the help that you got, and you help that child. You don't even have to tell us that you helped that child, but it must come, like, pay it forward. That's how building a loving world starts. We also have another program that we are doing. We've partnered with a wonderful lady, Sasha, where we donate metric dance gowns and shoes, and so that some of these kids, matric comes once.
Yes, it's
and
lifetime memory.
These kids, they do not go to matric dance because they can't afford to buy decent gowns and things like that. So last year we donated, I think, around 4,000 matric gowns to the schools that we are working with. And we are also saying to those kids, after you've used it, pay it forward. There is another one who is coming behind you who does not have the gown. If you are not going to use it moving forward, take it and give it to someone else who will be able to use it.
Wow.
So that's part of our secondary program.
Yes.
We have a lot of other things that we do secondary. We've got psychologists, we've got social workers that do interventions once we've identified problems within individual kids.
Yes.
And so
the work never ends. And I just want to say to both of you, really congratulations on this wonderful, magnificent, and life-changing and perception-changing program and work that you do with young minds, because I personally love kids, and I personally am very much, pulled and lured towards the youth, because, as I said, when you see the things that are going on and you see, certain things that kids go through, it's not their fault, and it's really not something that they can help. But to have programs like yours really shows that not all hope is lost, and we really wish you all the growth and all of the success that you deserve. And more than anything, I just want to say, please, no matter the challenges that are there, because they will be there, please do not give up, because these are the kids that actually will carry forth the country. I would hate, because I love my country, I would hate for our country to actually just be in total chaos, because we never prepared the youth to actually come on. And more than anything, we always, as society, we always glorify people that have the cars, that have, the mansions, the clothes and this, and we forget about the people that are doing the very, very important work, dealing with young minds, dealing with the future, people that do the work that is not flashy, people that do the work that is not all glitz and glam and everything. As society, we are so used to always praising and thinking, this person, that's the best person. Yet there are people like yourselves that are literally changing lives, that are literally impacting young people's lives. So I just want to say to you guys, thank you so much, and congratulations on doing really impactful work.
No, thank you. Thank you very much. Also, I want to thank my team here in South Africa. I've got a wonderful team. Without them, none of this would have been possible.
Yes.
I also want to thank Loving Classroom International team. There's a wonderful people who are behind, curriculum development and all of those things, the Loving Classroom thing. Thank you very much to the wonderful team that we have. And also want to thank all the people that supported us, technically, financially, and otherwise. Without all of you, none of this was gonna be possible. If I won't mention names, but I say thank you. It's a pity that a lot of our support comes from outside. I hope and I pray that South Africans heard this and they will come on board and they will be able to say, this is an initiative that I want to support.
Yes.
And I want to and yeah, thank
Absolutely.
you very much to everyone.
Thank you guys for the work that you do. That was Thulani Makhoba as well as Naledi coming from Loving Classroom South Africa, a wonderful, wonderful, impactful program that goes out there to all the schools, teaching children how to speak with love, how to operate in love, taking our kids out of survival mode, because we see all these behaviors that we are experiencing of young children, young minds, young people being angry, being toxic. It all comes from them not knowing how to express themselves accordingly, not knowing or not finding a way of actually, dealing with all the turmoil that they find themselves in. But we do have organizations like Loving Classroom South Africa, and please, if you or your company or anyone that you know out there has got the capacity to support this organization, please let us do so. I'm going to be a millionaire soon. I know where my money is going. I'm calling it out there, putting it out there, because like I said, that I would want to leave my children in a better South Africa. And a better South Africa is not only about my 2 kids. A better South Africa is about all the children in the country feeling worthy, feeling loved, feeling protected, so that they can carry those principles forth.